Guys, thanks for tuning in. It's Rudy at East Coast Sun, and I've got some big news, and I'm not sure if it's good or bad news yet, but I'm going to let you make the decision. So there are some proposed, keyword proposed, changes to the net metering program in New Brunswick. So those of you not familiar, the net metering program allows us to collect solar, use it on our home, send the rest of it through the grid, spin your meter backwards, the neighbors buy it, and NB Power will let you get that kilowatt hour that you sent out back later at a ratio of 1 to 1. So you get 1 kilowatt hour extra and you sent it out to the grid. You can use that 1 kilowatt hour later in the evening, later in the winter, up until the end of NB Power's fiscal year end. So it's been a great program. I've talked about this lots before. I think that, I thought we were going to have a change. The changes are coming sooner than we think. You've followed me along this far and you see, I've said, maybe they're listening to me. I said we shouldn't be incentivizing solar, we should be incentivizing storage. You've heard me say that before. Well, guess what? By the end of May, we are not going to be subsidizing solar in this province. Federal programs are gone. The US got rid of their 30% tax credit. It's not good for solar as far as incentives go. But hey, let's let the free market figure it out, because guess what? I don't think we need solar or incentives to make solar make sense. But that's a whole different story. Let's get into the new proposed net metering policy that they want to bring into play. So I was in a meeting the other day. I did a 17-minute video. A lot of you guys watched it. I have what's called the evidence, which is the rate design application phase 2. So that was released on April 30th, and I'm allowed to talk about it now because it's actually on the EUB website, and I'm going to paraphrase it for you guys. You can go and find it on that site, and you know what, I'll probably put a link to it as well. So long story short, I explained how the current billing is for net metered customers, and I'm going to talk about what it's going to look like. Probably, I think they're going to try to push this through next spring. Okay, to make this easier for us, I'm going to pull a example billing that is actually in the evidence that was produced for us, and then I'll go through it. So right now we have a monthly service charge, so $30.95, and then as you can see on the second line, the charges for the electricity that you used, we are charged almost 16 cents after tax, so it's 15.46 cents per kilowatt hour. So that works out to $186. And then on the credit, so that's how much we send back. Notice the rate is the same. We get 15.46 kilowatt hours when we send it back. So 1 to 1, which is great. Then the tax on there, and then the total bill for this sample customer that sent about half of their. They sent about half of the power that they used back, so they had a $156 power bill. Lovely, awesome program, greatly benefits the customers, those with solar. However, NB Power is saying that's not fair because we are getting retail rate for the electricity, and this is true in other places. In St. John Energy, down in St. John, you have to send 2 kilowatt hours back to the grid in order to get 1 back later. In California, you have to send 3 kilowatt hours to the grid to get 1 back later. We were getting 1 to 1. It was pretty sweet. We have been feasting. So NB Power says, you know what? We're giving you the retail rate, which includes distribution and transmission and all the infrastructure. And the customers that aren't on net metering have to bear that cost. So that's the reasoning behind it, whether you agree with that or not. But so that's what we are getting. It was a great deal. So on the new proposed, keyword proposed here, there's a 3-part structure. So part 1, that is your monthly service charge, $30.95. That's not going to change. Demand charge. Let's talk about demand charges right now. So the demand charge is how, you commercial customers will know this, the demand charge is how much you loaded the grid during that month for, I believe it's a 15-minute period. So if I'm driving my vehicle somewhere, say I'm driving to Fredericton, by the time I get there, I've burned, we'll say, a quarter tank of fuel. That is my volume of of power or energy that I've used. So that's consumption, we'll call it. And then demand charge is, hey, you revved your vehicle to 5,000 RPM. I'm going to charge you $10 for every 1,000 RPM that you use that engine. So that's demand. So customers, industrial customers and commercial customers, they have a demand charge, and a lot of times it's half of their bill because it's how much they loaded the grid. The first I think it's General 1 commercial rate, the first 20 kilowatts is free, and every one after that, I think it's like $16. So on the 3-part structure proposed for only net metered customers, so this is if you have solar, because 100% of the net metered customers are solar in the last bit. Nobody's running wind or hydro. They're going to introduce what's called the demand charge. So in this example, they're going to charge $13 per kilowatt. Well, what does that mean? And it said here 8.34 kilowatt demand charge. I'll give you an example. You wake up in the morning and you have a shower and you start so you're going to be recovering your water heater. Let's say you had a long shower and you're running a 60-gallon water tank and you're using 6,500 watts. So you spiked 6.5 kilowatts. Your water pump, if you're rural like me, would have used 2 kilowatts, probably. Depends on how deep your well is. And if you fired up the hairdryer, that's another 2 kilowatts. So what are we up to? 6.5, 8.5, 10.5. And let's say your spouse was running the toaster. We'll say another 1,500. So 8.5. Hey, look at that. And even 10. So you just woke up in the morning and did your normal things and you spiked 10 kilowatts. So you only have to do that once. And you rev the engine of your house up to 10 kilowatts. Well, guess what just happened? If you're on net metering, this is proposed, you just cost yourself $130 because they're charging you $13 per kilowatt. You only had to do that once for like a 15-minute period. I'm not sure how long the period is, but you only had to do that once. That doesn't include your charging your electric car. That doesn't include running electric heat pump, auxiliary heat. Let's say you have a on-demand water heater, electric, 40 kilowatts. I think you can get a 40 kilowatt on-demand water heater. So that's one without a tank. It's tankless. Makes your water as you need it. If you run that, it's $520 is what it's going to charge you on a demand charge. Now, something to keep in mind, they only want to do that during a peak time. So it's vague when the peak times are going to be, but it's definitely going to be between 7 and 9. It might be between 7 and 10 p.m., or they might have 2 sections, between 7 and 9 in the morning and 5 and 8 o'clock at night. Not sure yet. But if you nail the grid, 1 kilowatt during that time, it's going to be $13 per kilowatt. So that's a big deal. So my argument to MB Power was, are we going to bring demand charges to all residential customers? And I was told that no, it's only going to be for net metered customers because the net metered customers are way more aware of kilowatts, kilowatt hours, where their power is going, all this stuff that I preach about on the daily. So the net metered customers will be the ones that will be more apt to avoid that. So back to being fair. How is it fair that someone who has more education around electricity is going to end up with probably a minimum $200 demand charge? And it doesn't look like that demand charge can be offset with solar either. So that's pretty bad news. I mean, it's an ask. They have to go through the EUB to get this. So I get it, because the reason we have to build these power plants and stuff is because of the big demand. And I know they want to kind of it sounds like they want to try it out on us more educated, more energy literate customers before maybe they introduce it to residential, because commercial already has demand charges. So bad news, right? What's that going to do? Batteries. Remember the game of chess we're playing with MB Power? We can put a battery in and we can avoid demand charges. We can tell your house to only pull 2,000 watts or 2 kilowatts from the grid. No more. Cap it there. If you need more, it comes from the battery. And so that's a whole different story, but it's a way to circumvent this. Okay, more bad news. If you're on the new 3-part net metering, which they're going to try to force, well, we will be if they make this go through, that same credit for this customer, 604 kilowatt hours that they are sending back to the grid, they are going to give you 6.7 cents. Right now we're getting 15.59. So you're getting a heck of a lot less. Now, one thing I need to point out here, the general rate is actually 40% cheaper. So if you go on net metering, if you put one solar panel maybe on your house and you get on net metering, your power now becomes 40% cheaper. So, however, you have demand charges that you have to work around. And I can guarantee you every house is going to have a pretty significant demand charge if you're running anything electric. So, and it's probably heat and hot water, right? So I get what they're trying to do. They're giving us a deal on our power. It's going to be, according to this, the model, the example, 9 cents down from 15, and then we're only going to get 6.5 cents to when we send it back, and you're going to have a demand charge. So what's that going to do if this goes through? What are customers going to do, and how is this going to change how I'm doing things right now? Because right now we are set up for 1-to-1. We have customers that we've probably installed 4 customers this week. With the anticipation that, hey, we're going to continue with this program. One thing I will note, they do plan on grandfathering the current net metering up to, or 10 years is what they're proposing. I'm going to push for 30 because 30 is the life of the system. That's how we sell these systems, is 30-year warranty on solar panels and such. Life of system, 30 years. I don't think 10 is that fair. There's not enough customers out there that it will really make a difference for them. That said, there's going to be a huge amount of customers jump on this bandwagon before it goes away. So they before May 27th is when the incentives go away. They won't have this new net metering pushed through. I forget when they said. Anyway, I'll find out and I'll mention that. So yeah, that's the gist of what they want to do with net metering. 40% off your power, demand charges, and then only give you 6.5 cents to send it back. So my questions for them was, is it going to be a sliding scale? Because I know they want to make our power go up based on that report that came out, the review, significantly in the next 5 years. So that's everybody's power. Will that slide with that? But even if that happened and the power went up 3 times what it is, we still wouldn't get the same export rate when we send back to the grid as what we have now. So let's say this comes into effect. So the new problem, I made some notes here. NB Power wants to charge me a demand charge for my power. Also, they want to charge me 16 cents per kilowatt hour and pay me 9 cents a kilowatt hour and pay me 6. So I might as well keep it. Why would I send my power back to the grid so the neighbors can use it? Why am I going to keep it? I'm putting a battery in, right? I'm going to keep it here at my house and I'll use it tonight. Like right now, like exactly what I'm doing off grid here. So, however, keeping it from summer to winter is a challenge. That's a great perk that we have with this current net metering. We can take all our summertime power and store it and then use it in the wintertime when we really need it. You're not going to do that with the battery. The battery is going to get you a couple days at best, depending how you heat. So those of you out there thinking, oh, I'm just going to go off grid, right? Because the problem I have with this whole thing is those guys are on the grid. You guys that are on the grid, you are at the mercy of MB Power as far as your electricity usage and cost. You're not going to run a generator, and you can save all the power that you possibly can up to a certain extent. And then the only thing that we could do after that is, hey, we can install solar and we can offset that bill and get everything gone except for the monthly service fee and maybe a little bit of taxes. So that was the hope that people could have, and now they still have that, but it's not as good as what it was, and you're only getting half. You can store it for later, but you're only getting half or less than half, a third is what we were getting right now. One thing I should mention too in this is it does not reset at the end of the year. At the end of the year, if you produce more, if MB Power owes you, they will give you a check. So that was interesting to me. That said, it's only it's not worth as what you're buying it at. So, so a lot of guys are out there going to say, "Oh, I'm just going to go off grid," right? So in order to go off grid, I think you got to change your heat source. You guys hear me talk about that. So, staying on the grid is great because you can, if you need power, you just get it from there and you don't have to run a generator or whatnot. So I think what we're doing is we're moving towards using the grid as a backup only when we need it. And that's the same thing they do in other parts of the world. Australia and such, they make their own power on their roof, they store it in their own battery, and they use it day to day. And when the battery's dead or when the weather's bad, they can use the grid as the backup. The way we do things now, those of you guys out there with the battery, you're using the battery as a backup and the grid is your primary. So we're taking a switch, and we have the technology to do that. And the inverters and stuff, we can input the policies and have it decide when to buy, when to sell, when to self-consume, when to use its battery. Vehicle to grid is coming. We use your car battery to shelter yourself from these wicked demand charges that are coming. So when asked if I will support this or not, I know this is coming. I understand. I look at things from the lens of the customer, and I look at it from the lens of MB Power. And as customers and owners of MB Power, we should want them to get their deficits down, and we should want them to be able to, be an asset instead of a burden on the province. Because our money, we're paying that. Like we're paying $170 million a year just in servicing a $6 billion debt, and there's a lot of bad things coming. Like we're going to spend a ton of money trying to keep our generators running. I get that. So I'm looking at it from both sides, and I want to protect the customers. I just want people to have some type of hope and a solution. And there's always a solution. I'm the guy that gives the solutions. I've been up for many nights thinking about if this proposed plan comes into play, how can the customers ultimately protect themselves and benefit and thrive? Because if you're on net metering right now and they forced you to the 3-part structure and this could be really, really bad. So in order for me to support this, I'll tell you what I really want, and I've voiced this already. Time of use is coming. So, and it's coming, I believe they're going to shoot for maybe even the end of this year. I'm just looking at my notes here from a few meetings that I had. And so time of use is going to charge you more for your electricity at certain times of the day. And that doesn't mean it's going to be more than what you're paying now. I don't know. I really need to know in order to make sense of where these things are coming from. So this net metering plan, why they decided to throw that at us first was probably not the brightest decision. Because if I know what our time of use rates are going to be, and then and is time of use going to affect net metered customers? Will the value of electricity be more than 6.7 cents? If I send power back to the grid during a peak time, are you just going to give me this wholesale rate? Or since the value of my electricity, doesn't matter if it's solar generated or stored on a battery or sitting in a car, if I send that out when you guys are when MB Power, you guys, I know you're watching, that's why I'm talking like this. So the reason, so we just need to know that, and then, what's going to make sense for the customers. And I know what MB Power wants. They want to have one even load profile. And my argument is, if you give me one of my solar customers with battery set up, I can most likely give you one even load profile for that customer, which means there's no spikes in the end of the days, because guess what? We have a battery in there, and the spikes came out of the battery. That was our flywheel. That was our capacitor, as we'll say, to run that. So there's got to be value in that, and it definitely would help the utility. And that's what they're trying to kind of get us through. The demand charges are very aggressive, especially for residential, very aggressive. So here's what I need to know is I need to know what the time of use rates are going to be in relation to what they are at now. Will it be less during a non-peak time like the weekend, or will they than what it is now, or will it be more during the peak times than what we have now? So I want to know that. I want to know if there's going to be demand response. So I do know that they're going to have a residential peak rebate coming out with time of use. And what I mean by that is, in Nova Scotia, they have a program where if you have a battery, they will pay you $500 to be able to use that battery. And with that, if during a peak time, the power company can access the battery. Last year there was 12 different events in Nova Scotia, and the customer is paid based on how much demand in kilowatts they can supply during that time. So with a homeowner with a battery can absolutely help the power company, instead of building a peaker plant, buying the power from Quebec, and they're paying half to the customer versus what they would have had to pay to Quebec. And it's significant. And the power companies want to spend the money local to their own customers and owners versus sending it out of the province. So in Nova Scotia, one customer with a 14 kilowatt hour battery got a check for $3,000. And it was almost $3,000 the year before that. The batteries are costing, if you have the infrastructure already, just for the battery installed, $5,000. So my argument, and I want to see, I want to know what our time of use and what this peak rebate is going to look like. And I think it needs to be made known before we go and vote on this new 3-part structure with the demand charges. And I want to know for my customers. So how is this going to change what I'm doing? I think all new customers need to have a dual lug meter base, because I believe we should be doing whole home battery backup, depending on how this peak rebate program plays out. And another big question is it going to make sense after this year? So if you're thinking about solar right now, we've got to get it installed this year before January 2027. So that's how much time we have in order to get the incentive that's out there. So you want to get in before this new net metering comes, I think. That way you have the option, right? So those customers that I've installed without battery or without battery ready or anything, you're going to be fine for 10 years at least. I'm going to try for 30 for you. So but going forward, knowing what's coming, I think I'm going, and I think there may be a really good opportunity, even without solar, just a battery. The ROI on a battery system, depending on how time of use and this peak rebate program play out, I think there might be a faster ROI in the future just on storage, which is what makes sense to me. How much? I don't know. I need to know what that's at. So you guys out there watching this, you guys that are pulling the strings out there, you know what I think. We need to know ahead of time before we put this out there. Otherwise, we're going to have like a lull where I'm going to be telling people, hey, don't buy any solar right now. And I will kill the industry, because I will try to make the best decision for the customer. So if we don't know what the price of something's going to be, or what program is going to happen, I will tell people just pull out on the binders. I don't want to waste your money guessing. I don't want to gamble with your dollars. So that's if you don't come out with these programs at the same time. So we can totally help the province and MB Power with the tools that we have now. $1 billion. If you don't spend that on that peaker plant, which does not operate for free fuel, by the way, it operates on fuel that we may not have control on. If you gave me $1 billion in my industry, I could do 100,000 behind the meter batteries, 16 kilowatt hours each, that you can pull 10 kilowatts from per battery. How's that for demand response? That's behind the meter. You don't have transmission losses. And I'll also bet you that out of those customers, those 100,000 customers, they'd be very willing to spend about a third of that, because they're going to get benefits from this too. You're going to buy the power from them. You're also going to give them resiliency for when the power's out. It's behind the meter. They'll also use their electric cars for this with vehicle to grid. So I've got a few of those systems that are in the queue right now. Pretty exciting stuff. So what I'd really love to see from MB Power, their time of use policy, please give me an ultra low rate overnight. In Nova Scotia or in Ontario, they had a 2 to 3 cent overnight rate, which when no one uses electricity. In Denmark, they actually pay you to take the electricity past midnight if it's windy out. Otherwise, they're feathering their blades on their turbines. They've got so much wind, they can't get rid of the power. So anyway, give me a really good rate. I don't even need solar. We're just going to put 2 or 3 batteries in a house. They will never buy electricity from you during the daytime. You won't have to worry about them contributing to the peaks, because they're going to buy it from midnight to 6 a.m. And they'll be happy to do it, because guess what? They're saving 80% on their current power bill. Probably won't even put a heat pump in. Straight electric. Right? So just thinking about these scenarios, someone challenged me on this. So that's what I know about this this new program that's being proposed through net metering. There's a whole bunch of changes. I'll give you guys the link to it. You can have a look and discuss, have a peek. Thanks for watching.